So we'll go ahead and get started here. Um, just wanted to cover a few things and then we'll just run it per usual. So if you have any questions on concepts relate, anything concept related or psychology related, model related, anything like that that you want clarified or just back tested on the stream, then we can look at it. Otherwise, I just got a couple things I want to look at based on the AM session. I think it'll be probably a shorter one. Not expecting a super long 3-hour stream. So we'll just get done with it. Any questions, we'll go through them quickly and then we'll call it a night. So if you got anything, you can put them up in the chat right now. I'm looking at the public stage chat. So if you click on the stream and then you can click on the little chat button, it says open chat, and it'll give you access to it. But for now, I guess we'll cover the current price action. So obviously Monday with no news, low probability day. We only have Thursday as the start of the news drivers. Thursday and Friday have 8:30 news. So I just ran up basically all of today. I would assume this is possibly accumulation for the rest of the week. We're going to probably consolidate for Tuesday, and I assume possibly early morning Wednesday as we just kind of form a range here. And then Thursday with CPI will bust out the sell stops and possibly purge and revert. So I didn't take any trades today. I posted the stream recording, so if you haven't watched that, you can. But we're anticipating a Judas swing throughout the morning. So I'm going to talk about market profiles in this backtesting stream. And kind of what we're expecting to see really in the first hour and a half of price action. So between 8:30 and 11 or 8:30 and 10, I'm going to tell you what I look for, what I'm anticipating, and then how to use the economic calendar to your benefit to find trade setups. So obviously didn't take anything in here. FT macro did provide an entry, but didn't take that. Didn't get any reversal at 10:30. And then we just slow grinded up the rest of the day and we're just accumulating here. So I guess we'll start with what we're looking at in the beginning. But if you just joined, if you have any questions, you can put them up in the chat and we'll cover them. But in terms of the morning session, I know a couple people were wondering, what am I looking for going into the New York AM session? And, how do we find a bias? How do we frame a time-based model? What macros to look at? All those are important questions and they can all be answered once you understand the market profiles. So when I talk about market profiles, there's only really a couple different things that you're looking for within the AM session, but the way that they play out and the way that they're executed in real time are going to be always somewhat different. There's variance to them. There's going to be different setups, short and long. It's going to reverse at different times, but it kind of, on a high probability day, there's a general framework you can follow. The two main ones during an AM session is AM session expansion or continuation of London session, or you see reversal during the AM session. Typically, those reversals will happen either at 10 a.m. or 10:30, depending on if we're extended or not. As well as just, if we're low probability, then we can also consolidate. But in the morning session, if you're in the Patreon group, you know that I like this 15-minute chart, and I utilize this a lot. So if you don't have these ICT kill zones and pivots marked out, this is a very useful indicator that marks out the session ranges from previous days and current day. I think it goes back quite a while. So I love this indicator just because it saves you some time and you can actually see what the ranges are doing instead of trying to mark them out and highlighting them. Just saves a lot of time. And I think it's easier to grasp the different market profiles when you actually can see what London and Asian are doing. So the first thing you want to understand is what London session is doing. Now, typically on a high probability day, you're going to see Asian range accumulate. So this blue box between 8 p.m. and New York open. Your high probability days will look like this. Asian accumulates, consolidates, whatever you want to call it. London will pierce one end. We'll go with sell stops in this case. So pierce one end, and either on the previous day or previous, range, whatever we're looking at, there's got to be some sort of discount PD array or sell stops. So if we say we have a fair value gap over here somewhere, the price dips into, then we see ICISD, we trade up. In the New York session, you can either see a continuation pattern or price then retraces maybe into a discount. Let me see continuation, or price will reverse back down towards the sell stops, possibly during London session or whatever higher time frame PD array we're looking at. Same thing with the bearish example where we have something like this. Asian range accumulates, London dips into a premium fair value gap, premium PD array could be an order block, dips lower, and then we see New York either expand or reverse. So those are your two basic ones. Now, using that in context with today, obviously we have Asian, doesn't really consolidate as much, but dip lower, taking out this PM low, and we expand up. One thing to mention is if you look at the daily chart and zoom in here, we have an inside close day. So these the candle open and close, staying within the previous candle open and close, previous day, will typically create these large expansion moves. If you look at different examples, now the highest probability ones were going to be when the candle buys and the candle wicks are staying within the previous day. So if I try and find one, something like this here. So if you look at this range, right, and we extend that out, see how this candle body stays within it completely. That third day, or this also applies to the weekly chart, so you can use this in the weekly chart. It's very useful. But that third day, you'll most likely see an expansion towards the high end or low end of the first day. So if we look at, trying to find a good example, another example here, like in here, inside close basically expands up. This is also useful on the weekly. So if you see an inside candle close, typically that starts an expansion move. Like here we have an inside close, expands next 2 weeks. Obviously this is during September, but anyways, going back to what we're actually talking about. Here, obviously, you have a New York continuation. And if you use the context of we have relative equal highs, which was my bias for today, this buy stop hunt, you're expecting a continuation up. Obviously, we have tons of buy side that were all pierced into this gap now, which I think was the final target we were looking for. Yep. Marked it out here earlier this morning. So now looking at true open, using this as in context, we can expect what 930 is going to do. So 930 is your start of your equities open, start of your AM session if you're looking at indices. But based on if we have 830 high impact news or not, you're going to kind of anticipate what 930 is going to do. So if we have 830 high impact news, most times your 930 open is not going to create a Judas swing. So if we look at something like Friday, we'll look at Friday with NFP. NFP right here, dips, takes out sell stops. We have a lot of buy stops accumulating London high. We run up here, and then 930, this line, doesn't create a Judas swing, instead climbs up and continues for the rest of the EM session up until around 11 o'clock. So if it keeps going back, I'm sure we can find tons of examples where we have 830 news. It's not going to show up because we're going to December. But that is something you can study on your own, is when we have high impact specifically, news at 830, you're not going to see, here's another one. This is December, but 830 news, 930 continues the move that 830 does. Now, depending on if we take stops or not, following that process, 10 a.m. can either reverse or continue. So if we see something like this, where price has a continued, say we're taking out sell stops at 830, we continue to move up, And then at 10 o'clock, we're taking out the buy stops or the pool of liquidity or premium for value gap up here. This may create a reversal at 10 o'clock. Okay. If we continue up at 10 o'clock and then we start consolidating around 10:20-ish, you can see 10:30 create a turtle soup entry and then back down into the sell stops. So when you have 8:30 news, you're going to treat that as your equities open. 8:30 news will also create a high probability, most times, not all the time, obviously, high probability 850 macro. So I'm going to keep using this NFP one because it's the most recent one, and I don't feel like scrolling all the way back into early December. So if you look at this macro window right here, this is your 850 to 910 macro. We are filling this inversion gap, trade up past the entire gap here, and you can use this order block here. You can even use this order block tap. Also valid entry, go long, multiple different opportunities to go long here. You can also expect 10 o'clock, this 950 macro to create high probability trade setup. You just have to be careful if 10 a.m. is reversing. But even 9:30, obviously, if your drawn liquidity is not hit, you can even enter on 9:30 because you're not expecting a Judas swing, right? So whatever the most obvious liquidity pool target is, you can expect 9:30 on an 8:30 news day to just run for that liquidity. So AM reversals typically happen at 10 or 10:30. Those are the highest probability ones. I like to look at is between 10 o'clock and 10:30. Yeah. So if you're familiar with the macro PDF, your 10 a.m. reversal would be the A classification of the 950 macro. You can also have reversals at 9:40. Most times that happens when 9:30 isn't the true open. So, it depends on when liquidity is swept. When you have 9:30 as the true open, that's when you want to see a Judas swing form. So between 9:30 and 10, most days you'll see a run for liquidity in the opposite direction. Your high probability days, you're going to see a run for liquidity in the opposite direction, either right at 9:30 or maybe it consolidates and then we run. And then you're going to see that as some sort of Judas swing. And then it reverses either at 10 or at 9:40, depending on, whenever the liquidity is hit. So 9:30 is true open. You can treat that as kind of your Judas swing. You typically want to avoid the first 20 minutes or so on a 9:30 is true open, just so you can gauge what the market wants to do. Some days it'll be cleaner, some days it won't be. I like to just wait for the macro, no matter what. Even if we have 8:30 news, then I'll possibly look at this macro, but I won't ever trade the 9:30 run on liquidity. Very rarely. I don't think I've traded it in a while, like months. So it's not something that I like to, but you can form your whole model just based on the injection of liquidity or injection of volatility you get at 9:30. So yeah, using that Judas swing in mind. Obviously, if we don't have a Judas swing between 9:30 and 10, and we have an extended range, then 10:30 sometimes can create that reversal. It depends on the profile. So if you look at today, if you go back and watch the stream recording, 9:30 true open, and we saw this run up for the buy side. I have it marked out over here. Went up into this buy side here, right at 10 o'clock. So I was favoring shorts potentially if we ran this out and then traded back lower because we didn't get a Judas swing. Expanded up. We said, okay, we're going to wait for 10:30. Wait for 10:30. We saw this kind of sweep of the relative equal highs that formed and no CISD. So no, I didn't take any trade because I didn't like us just chopping upwards, and you can see price just meandered around. And there's no real clear, clean market maker sell model or buy model, I think, in this process. Did you not like the 950 macro for entry today because it didn't give us a CISD? I didn't like the 950 macro entry because I didn't want to go long this run to premium. So if you look right at 950, we already took out liquidity here. Right, this dashed line is liquidity the relative equal highs we had marked out from last Thursday. So we traded up into there. I didn't see a short opportunity because we didn't even close below these gaps or see a CISD. You're right. But in terms of like, we don't know how far high we're going to go, especially on a Monday, right? So going long, like right here on this dip, obviously it makes sense in hindsight. You can see what happens, but going long as soon as it hits the buy side just seems like a retail idea, right? It's like counterintuitive of what we're supposed to be doing as ICT traders. So yeah, that's why I didn't go long here. And yeah, I didn't go short because if we wanted to go short, we'd be targeting the true open. We would be targeting past the 930, right? Because this applies to anything. Whenever you're using a true open, whenever ICT says, you're targeting, whenever ICT says your best entries happen below midnight or your best entries happen below true day open, below 8:30 opening price or below 9:30 opening price, if you're bullish in this case, right? Say this is 8:30 open, we dip lower into a fair value gap, and then we're trading up, right? So we'll do this. And we have a bullish bias. Say we have bias at liquidity right here, that's 30 points away. For me personally, if we're bullish, expecting bullish price action, I'm not going to just take liquidity off or take partials or full profit off at this liquidity. Even though it makes sense, you could take a partial here, but it also makes sense that if your best entries on a bullish day are below a certain opening price, it would also make sense for price to pierce past that that opening price by a substantial amount. So you can use that opening price as a target, especially if you're fully extended away and you're finding good setup. You can use that as a target. So on a 930 day like this, if the best shorts happen above the 930 open, since we're using that as true open, you obviously could be targeting short-term sell side like this. But in a best case scenario, we have no Judas here. We're seeing a buy stop run between 930 and 10. We saw a change in state. I would be targeting anything below true open. Even you could use true open as a partial point, or even full take profit. But liquidity pull down here, all below true open. And you can apply this to 830 too, right? Like, look here, 830 news, that's your true open. Right? So you go long during the macro. 20 points is given for sure. But if we want to see bullish price action after this Judas swing, are we expecting price to go above the 830 eventually? And what do you see? Buy stops up here, buy stops up here. So even if you're targeting this, it's an extra 6 points. If you're targeting that high, like, doesn't it make sense that we would climb above at least this high, even just a little bit, just to confirm that we're continuing? Now we could retrace back, but it would make sense that we're trading back past that true open. You can use this for midnight too. If you're trading something like London or even using equities open and using the London price and 830 price, mark those out. And if you're trying to get the best entry below a specific price or above a specific price, then use those points as targets for price to run past it. Don't. It just doesn't make sense for price to just stop. I hope that makes sense. Pretty much looking for the 930 Judas and getting in before price runs past true open. Yeah, that would be the best case scenario. Like on a 940 reversal day, where that's your B classification in the PDF, where we have a stop run at 940-ish and then a low risk buy at 950. Those are one of my favorite ones to trade because typically you get two entries between 950 and 10 o'clock, and you can be targeting pretty far liquidity pool, especially if we're overextended from 930. Even 10 a.m. If you see reversal at 10 a.m., you can be targeting true open. This also applies for the opening range model, where um, between 11 o'clock or even between 10:30 and 12, you'll see a hunt on the AM session high or low. So between 9:30 and 10:30, even 9:30 and 11, you're going to form your high and low of the range. And then you're going to see that range pierced. So if you go to different days, you can look at that. Like here we have stop hunt, turtle soup, and then trade back into a market maker sell model. You scroll further back, AM high pierced. So I would say 90% of the days you're going to see AM high or low pierced, not both of them, but one of them. You look at all these ranges, right? 10:30, 10:47 puts in a low there. You can use that as a target. Continuing. Here's another example. 9:30 open. We don't have, I don't think we have 8:30 news. Yeah, no 8:30 news. We see a Judah swing. This can all be seen kind of as a Judah swing, right? Or we're trading up, slow grind up, filling into a premium P rate, taking out buy side as well. And then look, right at 9:55, we create the highest high of the day. So that's within the first 30 minutes. We trade back up. Obviously, we get close to it. Trade back up into premium, tap into the order block. And then we trade back lower and accelerate all the way down for the rest of the day. So if for some reason you were looking at this is a short, it's still within macro time, you could be looking at below the 9:30 open right here. All right, so we're expecting price to expand below the low if we're truly bearish. What's below the 9:30 open? Liquidity pool, liquidity pool. Obviously, you can scroll back and find more, but that would make sense to complete the market maker sell model. So if you're looking for that first opening range, that would be my kind of tips and tricks. Is you're one, expecting a Judah swing on a high probability day to form within the first 30 minutes. Now that can be between your 8:30 and 9, depending on when your true open is. So just use your true open. And you also want to see preferably a stop hunt between 9:30 and 10. So if it's just Judah swinging and it's kind of trading up towards liquidity and it hasn't met it yet, be careful. If you see a clear stop run like at 9:40, which is taking a buy side or sell side that was resting pre-market, and then you see a change in state, I would most likely trust that as a true reversal. Continuation ones are hard. It's definitely hard to anticipate when you're going to get a continuation. You don't see a Judah swing happen between even, in the first hour. We don't see even Judah swing the entire day. We just accelerated from the 9:30. This rarely happens though, where you don't see 9:30 ever touched. It's kind of high to low range and we never come back to it. Maybe like 5 to 10% of days this ever happens. But yeah, in this case, we kind of saw it coming, at least for the first 30 minutes, because we were piercing liquidity. We still had buy set up here. Now, just after 10, it becomes difficult to read. But this is something where you could use the 9:30 open as a model, right? We have a shorter block here, tapped into it right on 9:30, fly up, provide multiple opportunities. But this is something I'm not worried about because it forms so rarely that it's not something that I care about. If I miss this, obviously it trades up 1,000 points on this day. 305 points, but you have to understand that everything outside of your model is noise. So if you only trade in market maker buy models and you see a market maker sell model, just because it may be a clean market maker sell model, you need to have the discipline and patience to not trade it because it's outside of your model, right? If you see if I see a good 1150 macro, or if I see a good PM macro, I'm not going to be trading it just because it may be clean and just because it's a macro. I'm only using my mental capital on really this first hour or 2 hours of the day. And I suggest you guys do the same. Find a session that you really like. Don't bounce between sessions. One, because you're not gonna grow as much as if you're just focusing on one, I think. Two, you're going to be expending too much mental capital and just going to be exhausted looking at the charts for, 5, 6 hours of the day, looking for one setup. You're bound to take something poor just out of lack of patience. Um, but yeah, if you want to study a session, I would say study the AM session, and look for the things I'm talking about. So Judah swing, either at the, whatever the true open is, mark that out, Judah swing. Target the true open if we're truly bearish or truly bullish, and we see a nice setup below or above. You can target that true open or liquidity pools that are past it. And then be mindful about the 10 a.m. reversal, because that does happen occasionally, not all the time, but um, if 10 a.m. doesn't reverse, be careful of a 10:20 reversal. A lot of times you'll see something like this where price can consolidate. We see a 940 pierce of liquidity. We trade back lower and form this kind of range. Oh my gosh. Make this bigger. You see this kind of range form. 940. Pyramid entry at 10. You can either see a retracement or reversal at 10. If we see a 940 reversal, most times your 10 a.m. is going to cause a retracement or a pyramid entry for the market maker model that's forming. So say we get a retracement here. So this is 940. This is 10 a.m. What you can see then is 1020 creates a short-term reversal where then price retraces into the parent dealing range. And if there's a buy stop pool up here somewhere and we take that out, then this is where 1030 to 1045, silver bullet, the macro, whatever you want to call it, creates another entry, 1030 to 1045 in there. Or if there's no internal range liquidity that is within premium of this range, you'll see price return into premium here. Turns into premium. If there's no buy side liquidity pool, you can see this sweeps the buy side that's formed in the consolidation and then trade back lower. And then this could either be a 1030, 1045 macro trade or a 1050 macro trade. So this is why time is important, right? So if you use these elements of time, you know exactly what's expected to happen on a high probability day. Between nine, you can use this time as a reversal point. I'm not going to be trading this as a reversal point. I'm going to be waiting for 1030 still. But if I see something like this obviously is flippable. So if you invert this, I can't do it. If you invert this and we're trading up and you see a market maker buy model form as well, that's also applicable. Time is still important on that one. But if you see something like this, we're trading back into the range and then we see a CISD over here, that is like, in my all these signals are going off my mind because that's such a pattern that forms so much that once you see it a lot, it's a perfect example. I'm actually going to, let me see if I can pull up a video and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So let me stop this stream. If you have a question, you can still put them up in the chat, but let me just pull this up really quickly. Just gonna go to an old video and find the clip. And the time elements are very specific. So I think this is one right here. Let me see. Side purge, right? It's high probability. All right, this is one example we can look at. So let me full screen this. All right. Let me know if you can see that. Let me just flip it on this one really quick. All right, that should work. Everyone see it properly, I hope. So in here, we don't see a high impact news driver. And we're trading up into buy stops up here right at 930. So this is a little bit difficult to see, but we're filling a gap, RTH gap, and knocking out buy side at 930. So you could actually see that as your 930 Judas swing. But you can see where it's not like a clear Judas, especially since we have buy side up here. So this is during December, so it's going to be poor price action. But you can see we see this extended range lower, right? And we have sell side, and we're expecting a Judas swing to form between 930 and 10. And we have 930 as a true open. So we see the sell side run. I'm watching. And at 10 o'clock, you can see a reversal happen, right? So if you play it out, we see this sweep of the internal range and your sell side at 10 o'clock, right? Right at 10:01, we get that sweep. Play it forward, and you can see we get a CISD. Bounce off this order block right here. Actually, bounce off the order block, and then I go long. Now, I'm targeting about 50% of that range, but you also could be targeting the 930 open, right? If that makes sense. Because if we're bearish, or if we're bullish, sorry, and we take out sell side here and we want to see a full rotation up, we're going to target that 930. We end up just trading up into the short-term buy side, filling this gap, and then trading back lower, I believe. Take out the buy side there, and then you can see right at 10:20-ish, we're about 2 minutes off. But 10:20, we form this trade back lower, and you can kind of see the fractal market maker sell model that I was telling you about, right? Now, if we go to another video, let me see. Go to another one where there's a good example here. Here's another one we can look at. It's not the same exact example I was talking about, but here's something else you can study. 930 open. We have, oh, sorry, I'm not streaming. Here, can you see now? Hopefully. We have 930 open here. No real kind of clear liquidity yet. We don't have 830 news. Okay, so we're going to treat 930 as your true open. We see London high up here, pierced into, and we tap into a higher time frame sibi. So in your head, you should be looking at this as a Judas swing, right? We just traded up, we took stops. We're looking for a CISD, and we're looking at that inversion gap that just formed if we can respect it on the bearish end. We're approaching the 950 macro. What can you be targeting? You can be targeting 930 open, below 930 open, right? We're bearish. And any liquidity pool that's below 930 open. We also are expecting, since we got this, and if you look, we're slightly off here, but this is right at around 940-ish. I would say this is not 940, but early before, it's not 10 a.m. That's what I'm trying to emphasize. It's before 10 a.m. So if we got the reversal before 10 a.m., most times you're going to see 10 a.m. create a retracement stage where we see a pyramid entry. So let's just skip forward here. I know it's kind of a lot, but 950 hits. Sibi right in here. If we dig up into it, I would take that as a short. Digs up into it. Fills the entire thing. Now, if you look at this, sell side below 930 open, right? So that would be my first target. Digs up into it. Tiny sibi up there too. I assume I'd take short. Go short here. Oh, I guess we're just tape reading this one. Now, what did I say? Reversal at prior to 950 macro creates a pyramid entry at 10 o'clock. See the sibi here? We're going to see a retracement at 10 a.m. perfectly at 10 a.m. And we should expand, 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 sell side. See? It's a framework. And this framework applies almost every day on a high probability day. But we got everything we're looking for. Judah swing, reversal, 950 macro trade. Now 10 a.m. is not expected to reverse here because we already got a reversal. This is a pyramid entry right at 10 o'clock. Dip lower, below the equities open, and below sell side that was below equities open. And that's more than 20 points. It's a 40-point run from, 40-point run from this 10 a.m. entry, but probably 60 points from here. What, 14,780 to 14, 50-ish points. I think that's pretty solid. And that's something that happens a lot of the time during the macro. And you can if you just study these kind of profiles, you can find a trade during that macro so many different times. That's why I tell you, it's really the only macro you need, because everything that's relative to the 2022 concepts, relative to 2023, using all the different PD arrays that you learned, they all apply to the specific time. So here, let's look at this one. This one's a little bit different. See if we can see anything in here. All right, so what did I say before? Extended range. This is where we have 10 a.m. news, so it's going to be a little bit different, right? 10 a.m. news is always going to be kind of wonky. So I've explained what 10 a.m. news has done before, so if you're confused, watch the other backtesting videos regarding this macro. I won't get into it now, but if you look at 930, you can't really tell. It's kind of annoying. Oh, you might be able to see it here. And we have 8:30 news too. Okay, so 8:30 news, we're expecting that to be true open, right? So 9:30 news or 9:30 equities open is not going to create a Judah swing. So we already have that in mind. 9:30 does not create a Judah swing. We're dipping lower. See how we have an extended range now? And 10 a.m. does not create a reversal point. I told you before on that little drawing I did, 1020 will create a reversal and we see a market maker sell model. What are you seeing here? Digs back up into premium of the dealing range, right? So from high to low, up into premium. We create a CISD roughly right around this green candle here. Trades up into the sibi, respects it, trade back lower. Now you can use everything I taught about speed, right? Where we don't see any gaps form. And then between, look what time it is. Between 10:30 and 10:45, we see that recontinuation entry for the market maker sell model targeting the 10 a.m. low, sorry. Entered short there. We see a little bit of chop, expand lower into 20. And then trade region to that sell side right there. Also another entry given during the 1050 macro. There's your sell side purged. So this stuff happens a lot. And it's very, very, I think, in my opinion, worth studying. It's not good grammar, but yeah, keep those things in mind. And you'll find a lot of good setups that form in the process. You won't be caught off sides in the first 30 minutes. I like to just sit still for the first 30 minutes, unless it's 8:30 news day. Just sit still for the first 20, 30 minutes or so. That's why ICT teaches the silver bullet is such high probability. Because when you understand these things about true open and about the macros and about what the different time elements are supposed to do, the silver bullet becomes very, very easy to find one fair value gap or one order block that forms that you can take, target your minimums, and be done. How do you find a high probability day? A couple different things. I'll actually give you the definition of low probability. So we're going to be obviously not excluding FOMC. So FOMC, NFP, CPI are days that can create low probability conditions, but low probability would be I'll type it in chat here while I'm talking. Days that follow bank holidays, those will be poor price action most times. Mondays without news. Even days without news, where there's a large high impact news later, sometimes can create chop. Large overnight move. So between London and New York Open, if there's a large expansion, that creates low probability during the AM session. Large overnight move. Sometimes 10 a.m. news, if it's just 10 a.m. news. If it's only 10 a.m. news, that'll create low probability for the first 30 minutes or so. So strictly, that doesn't mean you can't trade it, but sometimes it's difficult. Actually, I wouldn't even put that low probability. It's just hard. There's a difference. What else? I guess when first 30 minutes or so, when indices are not aligned, meaning YM is trading up and Q maybe is chopping around and ES is dumping off, that's going to be a low probability session, at least until they're paired up. DXY and indices are not inversely correlated, meaning DXY most times. So if you look at DXY, it's going to be shooting lower all day. Let's go to DXY. Trading back lower. Right at 12 o'clock, we start trading back up. So if you want to see DXY trade back up, you want to see indices trade lower. They're inversely correlated, meaning if one's going up, the other one's going down. But if we look at indices, right at 12 o'clock, we're still trading up, and you can see how poor this price action is, right? Like it's very, very choppy. So whenever they're not inversely correlated, that's another indication of low probability. Those are just the ones off the top of my head. I don't really know of any other ones that are like, clear. There definitely are some. I just can't think of them right now, but those are the main ones you're going to be looking at. So high probability day would be like if we had 8:30 news, we have maybe 10 a.m. news as well. We'll say 8:30 news, we reach into a higher time frame POI, we don't have large overnight move. 8:30 takes liquidity, and we just see opposing liquidity prior to 10 o'clock. So say maybe 8:30 news happens. We see a buy stop run right at 8:30. We trade back lower. Equities open right here, 9:30, and we have sell stops. Say this line is the sell stops right here. And I treat that as a high probability, potentially macro, where we see another continuation entry and target the liquidity. Something else that's low probability is when both buy side and sell side is engaged prior to open. So seek and destroy kind of conditions. That's where you're gonna have buy stops and sell stops. Price will do something like this, where we're just consolidating, maybe even during London, taking out liquidity, consolidating, taking out liquidity, consolidating, taking out liquidity. This is very, very difficult to trade. This is called seek and destroy. So another kind of factor that's not going to be high probability. Oh, yeah, I might just be dumb. My bad. There's the screen. So this is low probability right here. This is what seek and destroy looks like. Volume, you might have to right click on my name and then increase. If you right click on my name, you can change the input or the output volume to 200%. Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. Don't think I showed anything else. So if you have any other questions, you can put them up in the chat now. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap it up there. I just wanted to cover market profiles and what you can expect in the morning, what to look for. Another thing would be at 9:30, whenever you see that 9:30 open, depending on if it doesn't really matter if you have 8:30 news or not, but at 9:30, go to the 15-minute chart um, and mark out the closest buy side and sell side liquidity pools that you can see. So if we go back, so if this is your 9:30 equities open, right at 9:20ish or whatever, mark out your most obvious buy side and sell side. So most obvious would be here and here, the closest ones too. So here and here. That's sometimes where the 9:30 Judah swing can run for. Look for this one. Most obvious buy side and sell side. I'm seeing relative equal highs up here and sell side right there. Okay. 9:30's equities open. We've got buy side up here. Or even if you wanted to use that high, you could. This from previous day, so I would allow that. Previous day buy side, sell side. You use that low, that low. You just continue to do this. That's another helpful tool you can look for. Sell side down here, buy side, 830 high. You can see we normally will run for one of those. Now, if that's a Judah swing or not, you have to gauge based on what the market is showing you. But anyways, so in today's price action, there was nothing we can use. In terms of high probability, I would say no for the AM session specifically. I didn't take any trades just because I didn't like any of it. But I mean, the only real thing that I can see as something you could use was this macro here, 950 to 1010. But it's not something, like I said, where it's obvious, especially since we're going long right at the buy side. If we had retraced back into the range, like if we retested this range, this fair value gap down here, and then made a bullish indication where we're going to continue up, that would be something that I'd be fine going long, since I assume that we're going to pierce past this and go for previous targets, from last week. But it was just meandering right here. So yeah, today's price action was very, very poor. I would say there's really nothing in here that indicates any higher probability setups. Like even here, I was trying to mark out possibly this change in state. Didn't get the change in state. Didn't get the sell side run. So I had the sell side marked out. Didn't get really any of that. 1 hour sibi traded into, no respect. And then after 12, like I showed you the DXY. Sorry, didn't show that. I think that was the one thing I was looking at. DXY inversely correlated, right? So trading back lower, and she's traded up higher, and then DXY right here at 12 trades up higher, and Q does not trade lower at 12. Instead, it continues up, right? Only ICT trades conditions. Yep, only the big man. He's got the algo in his armpit, so I trust he definitely took something. Actually, if you look at that one video I showed you with the 10 a.m. reversal, where we had that extended range like this, and then we saw the consolidation, and then right at 10 o'clock, I showed you we reversed, and then I targeted that buy side up here. If you go and watch that video, I think it's called Turtle Soup at 10 a.m. or something like that. And then go and find ICT's execution of that same exact trade. He took the same exact long, but he targeted the buy stops up here. Now people are probably wondering, why would he target the buy stops? Let me see if I can pull it up right now, actually. Let me just find what day that is, and then I'm going to pull up exactly what I'm talking about so you know what I'm referencing. So this was on December 6th. So if we pull up December 6th ICT, of course it's not coming up. You guys seen his latest charter content? I actually have not been watching it all that much. I saw a couple of the videos, but haven't watched it since then. Was it December 6th? It was. Okay, here we go. Found the video. Perfect. Let me share the screen. Flip it on this one as well. All right. Hopefully everyone can see this. Give me a thumbs up if you can. Good? Okay. So this is the same exact trade that I took, where we had that extended range like I was talking about, where the 930, you want to see that Judas swing form. You see the sell stop sweep. He goes long, right in that opening range gap. Now watch where he places his target. He doesn't target this high like I targeted. He targets all the way. Skip forward. All the way up here. Why does he target all the way up there? That's because of the 930 Judas swing, right? You're expecting an expansion above the 930 open. So you can use that 930 open as a target. One more bullish. Let me see this dip lower. And you can probably use any liquidity above there too. So I'm assuming he probably places some more sell limits above. Let me see. Take profit above. See? About 20, no, not 20 handles, like 14 handles there. All the way above there. Which, you know, if you're looking at that in hindsight, it doesn't make any sense because we have so many gaps here that price could be trading into. Obviously, this is an FP week, so you know what happens after, but it's important to study this of why he's placing the sell limits there because he's expecting this run up. And then that's where he took partial the same exact spot that we took partials at. And then you can see it just dips lower into the sell side. And he got stopped out there. So that's something you can study for the week. I'm assuming it's probably going to play out during this week too. Tomorrow, that kind of thought process may not. Wednesday may not. Thursday and Friday, you want to be studying what I said today. We have 8:30 news on both those days, so you're expecting that as your true open. But just watch, especially on Thursday, watch the 8:30 open. I'm not going to be trading anytime during 8:30, but 8:30 open, watch that. Watch the 850 macro. Watch the 950 macro. Watch how 930 most likely will not create a Judas swing unless liquidity has already been met. And then after 10 a.m., watch how sometimes price action will be poor. Post 10 a.m., between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Sometimes price can be poor on CPI. Friday too, we have 8:30 news, so watch that same kind of profile, especially if we take stops at 8:30. So I think we'll probably just wrap it up there. We've been going for about 50-ish minutes or so. I'll make sure to post this on YouTube, so if you want to go back and watch it, or if anyone missed it, they'll have access to it. I'll send the link into YouTube vids whenever it's done rendering. So I appreciate all you guys joining. I know it's kind of late. I appreciate you guys joining and making this kind of live. So if I don't see you guys tomorrow, have a great rest of your week. And I will see you guys on tier 2 and tier 1 tomorrow morning, sharp at 9:40. Take care. Have a great rest of your night, and I will see you guys soon. Peace.